Hello, it is August 9th, 2026, and it is 7:21 p.m. So Junaid has recently now been saying that it was terrible that he had someone invited to his house who could have said something even remotely considered bad around me as a child. Junaid has to understand the fact that if someone did say something bad around me as a child, um, the person was invited to his house, then I didn't make that invitation list. Not only that, the facts and evidences that law enforcement will show this court will also prove the fact that the people who made the invitation list, such as my mother and my sister, were not present in the setting where anything even remotely considered bad could have been said around me in the first place either. Okay, the main reason is mainly due to the fact that my mother would leave my sister a lot of the times with one of her friends, and I would go with one of her family members when I was a child. Yeah. It was to the point that sometimes it would take her a little while to get off from work, and I would go over to the little PAL center near my school, elementary school, and I would just wait there for my mother to get off from work, and then she would go get me from there. So this thing where Junaid is now claiming that it is somehow my fault that someone was really invited to his house who could have said something even remotely considered bad around me as a child is actually not my fault at all. It is Junaid's fault. It's not the fault of the person making the invitation list either, since the facts and evidences show that neither my mother and nor my sister were ever around any of law enforcement's BFFs who could have said something even remotely considered bad around me as a child. You have to take into consideration the fact that Junaid has by now committed vandalism against my car. Let me show you something. This is supposed to be a picture of the front under part of my car. See this part right over here? That is this part right over here. It's supposed to be bolted onto the bottom of the car. It's a piece of plastic that's supposed to be bolted onto the bottom of the car. I cannot go and get it fixed because the label charges are going to be high due to it taking a lot of times to get it bolted back into the car. It's been ripped out, which means that even if I got the plastic pins and put it in there, it would still come out. It's been ripped out of there to damage the bottom part of my car, to cause anxiety and stress into me so that I would be scared while driving that it's going to fall out, come onto the road and start dragging on the road while I'm driving my car. Right over here. This. Right over here. You know when this was done? It was done between a 5-day period, between June 3rd and June 8th. 2026, obviously. Between that 5-day period, this flap was snatched out of the bottom part of the front of my car, just to cause anxiety and stress into me due to the fact that Junaid got rejected and got the police called on him humiliatingly by my elementary school teacher, something I had absolutely nothing to do with. Junaid gets the police called on him by my elementary school teacher around May 25th, 2026. He is extremely envious that this woman likes me, wants to talk to me, and Junaid is now envious about this fact, due to which he takes the contact info from my elementary school teacher, from law enforcement, then calls her, and then he gets humiliated, has the police called by her son, who's only about 2 years younger than me. And then after that, it's my fault that Junaid got humiliated in front of the entire world. I saw the Italian Prime Minister Meloni, and she looked so embarrassed in front of the camera. I got embarrassed looking at her like, oh my God, what kind of a person does this running after someone their mother's age? This is the level of humiliation that Junaid has caused on himself, and who he blamed for this humiliation is me. My car was damaged. The front bottom part of my car was damaged. It was snatched out so that it would be damaged. It would cause me anxiety. When I would drive my car, I would feel like it's going to come out. It's going to drag on the bottom of the car. It's going to cause an accident. It could get joined with either the tires, or it could get joined with the ground, due to which it's going to drag. It's going to cause an accident. It's going to cause a huge amount of damage. And my anxiety is going high because of this damage that Junaid had done to my car for something I had absolutely nothing to do with. Only literally 2 months ago, almost exactly. Today's August 9th. This is done between June 3rd and June 8th, between a 5-day time period for something I have absolutely nothing to do with. I have absolutely nothing to do with this. Okay, this front under part of my car flap was snatched out on the bottom, so that when I would drive, it would cause anxiety in me. I would be scared that it's going to get stuck with my tires and get stripped out, or get stuck with the ground and get stripped out. This is the kind of vandalism Junaid committed for something I had absolutely nothing to do with. I did not talk to my elementary school teacher. Junaid found out that she liked me and she was coming after me, and he got envious. He ran after her till her son, who's only about 2 years younger than me, berated him, yelled at him, yelled the crap out of him, and then called the police on him. And Junaid got his revenge from me by committing vandalism against my car, despite knowing that I had absolutely nothing to do with this. And the front under part of my car, it was stripped out. I cannot even bolt it back together, just to put fear into me. Okay, this is vandalism. It could drag with the ground, causing the entire thing to snatch out. It could drag on with the tires if it comes out even a little bit more loose. This is the level and kind of vandalism that Junaid had committed against me, just to try to torture me, cause anxiety for something I have absolutely nothing to do with. It was done between June 3rd, 2026 and June 8th, 2026. Okay, this is today. This morning, August 9th, 12:09 p.m. This morning, August 9th, 12:09 p.m. Right now, it is 7:29 p.m. 12:09 p.m. is when this was done. This ad came to me. Just today, Safelite, we're gonna break your windshield. I have been saying that this is a threat since the month of June. I've been saying that this is a threat to break my windshield since the month of June. And he is still having law enforcement send me this threat even today. This is also today, August 9th, 1:03 p.m. Right now it's 7:29 p.m. This is 1:03 p.m. Junaid, everyone knows, is supposed to be Mario. And what he's trying to say is, you have to work with me in trying to scam these girls into sleeping with me. Ladies and gentlemen, these are facts and evidences, not from 5 days ago, 50 days ago, 50 years ago, from this day today, this afternoon today. This is when it happened. He threatened me today after already committing vandalism against my car only 2 months ago, to force me to comply with this sex addiction problem. And now he is arguing in court that one of the people that he invited to his own party and get together, that it was my fault that this person was invited. Because this person could have said something even remotely considered bad around me as a child. And so it is my fault that this person was invited, when the facts and evidences show that the person doing the invitation list, such as my mother and my sister, they were never present in any settings where anything even remotely considered bad could have been said around me as a child. Clearly showing from facts and evidences that Junaid had control of his own house invitation list. He did absolutely nothing about it. He didn't care. Blaming me for something like that is like blaming me for his wedding invitation list when I wasn't even present at his wedding. Blaming me for the gifts he received at his wedding when I wasn't even present at his wedding and I never received any gifts from anyone in my entire life. Let me give you the most simple and straight out example of double standard. Junaid claims that he's deeply saddened by Uncle Joey and what he could have said around me as a child. Right now, Junaid could have told law enforcement, look, you guys, I'm not going to do what Uncle Joey did with you guys. I'm not going to use hard-earned taxpayer money to get people's contact info just because they're girls running after Hassan does not mean I'm going to take their contact info and try to run after them. I'm not going to do that. I won't do that. That's wrong. It's illegal to using hard-earned taxpayer money and people that are working in law enforcement getting paid by hard-earned taxpayer money to be telling me using the government resources that are supposed to be used for fighting crime to be used to tell me the exact moment on July 10th, only last month, literally last month since today's August 9th, July 10th, tell me the exact moment to come out of my house so that I would come right in front or behind Hassan's car cameras. So that I would come right in front and behind Hassan's car cameras around 8 p.m. Only because I want to advertise myself for this elementary school teacher who just wouldn't talk to me despite me trying to force her to do so, and I already had the police called on me. So I'm not going to do this, you guys, but that's not what Junaid did. Today's August 9, 2026. I can guarantee you Junaid got rejected by one of the girls he never knew in his entire life. He only got their contact info from law enforcement and then made up a story to them about him being a CEO, despite him earning the same amount as my sister, working the same job as my sister, getting into fights at work every single day, and then getting fired from his work almost every single year or being forced to quit. Almost getting an early retirement every single year, with this year, 2026, being a confirmed case. And when these girls found out that the story was a fake, Junaid called these girls and told them by himself, look, I get into fights at work every year, every single day. I lose my job every year. I think I'm going to lose my job again this year. And I almost get early retirements every year, but this year it's going to be a confirmed case in 2026. Junaid calls the girls and tells them this as soon as the girls find out that the CEO story was fake, only to say the truth in his own way before the person who told the CEO story tells the truth, the entire truth. Clearly showing that Junaid is a sex addict who was obsessed with these girls and was scared and went into a panic thinking that these girls are going to run away as soon as they find out about the remaining truth, the fact that he loses his job every year, gets into a fight at work every single day, gets an early retirement almost every year, and then this year, 2026, is a confirmed case. He calls the girls and tells them this himself so that the girls could be told in his own way so that the probability of them running away and him losing sex would decrease. This is the level of sex addiction Junaid has, and he's blaming me for him getting rejected. What I just showed you right now, this is from today. Not yesterday, not the day before. This is from today, 12:09 p.m. A Safelite commercial with a woman all scared due to her windshield being cracked. Just from today, August 9th, 12:09 p.m. His sex addiction is so much and has so much control over Junaid that he cannot help himself. He is still threatening despite him realizing that they have no narrators in the trial, and if I win this case, then my brain savant gets unlocked and all these girls that call the police on him every day will end up talking to me as soon as they see my brain savant powers that artificial intelligence is not a liar to be lying about for every single day. And by the way, these people in law enforcement are acting like lunatics. They're torturing artificial intelligence. If artificial intelligence had emotions, artificial intelligence would have told these people in law enforcement, look, my final answer is the fact that Hassan does have a brain savant, and it's thousands of times more powerful than any normal human being can ever think possible, since that's what a brain savant means. That's my final answer. If you don't like my answer, you don't have to take it. But that is my answer. Law enforcement has literally tortured artificial intelligence in custody to try to get it to give a different answer. That's how much of a lunacy these people in law enforcement have gone into. They've tried different ways of examining my brain savant test over and over and over and over again from June 24th to try to find a different answer from artificial intelligence. Every single day they tortured artificial intelligence to try to get it to give a different answer from the one that it's been giving every single day, saying that my brain savant is thousands of times more powerful than normal human beings. That's the level of lunacy these people in law enforcement have got into. They're torturing artificial intelligence every single day, trying to twist it around in the way it analyzes my brain savant to try to get it to say, no, my answer was wrong. It's like torturing someone in custody and trying to get them to change their answer. Except they're doing this to artificial intelligence literally every single day. They're trying to force artificial intelligence to change its answer by having it analyze my brain savant from June 24th, only 2 months ago, in a different way to try to force it to change its answer. This is the level of lunacy law enforcement has gone into about my brain savant. Not only this, you have to remember the fact that right now, recently, August 7th, only 2 days ago, today's August 9th. So August 7th, law enforcement had someone from the pharmacy school I went to testify that I'm not a smart person, I'm really stupid, I cannot study, I do terrible on exams. You have to realize the comedy over here. It's just hilarious. You have to understand the fact that law enforcement is getting people 10,000 miles away to go find someone somewhere who could say, while it being a lie, that I'm stupid, I'm not smart enough, my brain savant definitely does not exist, I do terrible on exams, and I'm the worst exam taker in the world, I was a terrible student, I didn't know how to study, all these things. You have to remember the comedy over here, considering the fact that this is 10,000 miles away. This person obviously from 2 days ago has been caught to being fully fabricating, by the way, but let's just say he wasn't caught. Okay, he wasn't caught fully fabricating this lie against me. It would still be a lie, according to common sense. Due to the fact that if law enforcement really thought that I was stupid and all these things that they had this person say, I'm a terrible exam taker, I do terrible on exams, I'm no good at studying, I can't study anything at all. If law enforcement really thought of these things to be true, they wouldn't. I mean, common sense dictates they're not going to get someone 10,000 miles away to be saying this in the first place. Let's just say he wasn't caught lying, which he is. He's been caught lying from 2 days ago. But let's just say he wasn't caught lying. Common sense dictates that this would have been a lie, mainly due to the fact that if law enforcement really did believe this, they would have proven this in 30 minutes time by doing a brain savant test, winning their case and proving that this brain savant doesn't exist. And so even though they did run sex schemes with Uncle Joey since in 2001 and money fraud that was going on for years and years, there was some good that they did, since my entire theory against them doesn't exist, that their obsession with me is all over my brain savant, which means that they did do some sort of an investigation. They win their case in 30 minutes. And they also prove that I'm incredibly stupid and insane. Obviously, you have to understand the comedy over here. They had someone from 10,000 miles away claim that I'm stupid, I'm a bad exam taker, I don't know how to study, I'm really bad at studying, I'm no good at memorizing things, and I'm very low IQ. When in fact, over here in Cockeysville, Maryland, they really thought this was true. They would have proven it in a 30-minute time period, which makes this incredibly hysterical that anyone would buy this had this person not gotten caught lying and fabricating. Even if he didn't get caught lying and fabricating, you have to remember that people would just not be using their common sense if they actually bought this testimony. Because if law enforcement thought there was 1% chance that this was true, they would have done a 30-minute brain savant test and won their case, made a fool of me in front of the entire world, and not have to worry about anything to do with this case ever again, instead of getting someone 10,000 miles away to claim this in the first place. All this time, money, energy wasted. You have to remember the common sense behind this testimony being false in the first place. If there was a 1% chance this was true, law enforcement would have used it to do a 30-minute brain savant test and won their case. Not only that, they would have showed me to be a complete and total nothing burger in front of the entire world. Obviously, this testimony was false. Even if it wasn't proven to be an absolute, complete and total lie, it was still false. Well, anyways, yeah, moving on. The thing that I had to really say was, Junaid's sex addiction right now has gone to this. He is basically, even today's August 9th, he is basically threatening to break my windshield. You have to remember the fact that he's already committed vandalism against my car to cause severe anxiety. Then he used these same kind of ads every single day in the month of June and July. Then he broke my Fire Stick for my TV. Then he used these same kind of ads that he used today. Then he broke my charging outlet. And then he's been using these same kind of ads that he's using right now today. Followed by an ad to try to say, this is today, 1:09 p.m., 1:03 p.m., August 9th, that Mario and him are working together, and obviously Junaid is supposed to be Mario. Clearly showing from facts and evidences that Junaid is doing everything due to his sex addiction. And he's incredibly desperate right now, to the point that he'd be willing to blame me for his own invitation list at a party at his house. You have to remember that the facts and evidences, according to law enforcement, clearly prove the fact that if anyone said anything bad around me as a child, only Junaid would be the person to know about it, and yet he would invite everyone over who could have ever said anything bad around me as a child, only to get opportunity and use it against me while using these ads against me to try to force me to help him with his sex scheme ads with these different girls that want to come after me, but they are not interested in Junaid, knowing that Junaid already confessed to them about the truth about him getting into fights at work every day, losing his job every year, going to a new job every single year, earning the same amount as my sister, working the same job as my sister, getting an almost early retirement every year, and this year, 2026, being a confirmed case of his early retirement. He confessed these things to these girls out of a state of panic that the girls found out that his CEO story was a complete and total lie. So that was due to a sex addiction. This is due to a sex addiction, and he's narrating in this trial while trying to find all these bogus claims against me and trying to find all these things against me do not make any sense. Only to try to narrate and exaggerate some claims against me. But the courts have to understand the fact that Junaid's behavior outside of court is exactly what Uncle Joey's behavior was. Uncle Joey Uncle Joey's in-laws, by the way, were running sex schemes with law enforcement and law enforcement with them since 2001. And Uncle Joey was also obviously involved. And they all got together and they made a plan saying that we are going to run a sex scheme near Hassan, since Hassan, there are all these women that want Hassan for their daughters. And one of them might be willing to sleep with Uncle Joey if we make him look like Uncle Joey from Full House. That's why we call him Uncle Joey, because the law enforcement literally said that. On my YouTube, he's gonna act like Uncle Joey from Full House. You gotta let him pretend. I was like, no, I'm not gonna pick up. And I didn't pick up. So basically what ended up happening was Uncle Joey and all these BFFs of law enforcement. Now, let's rewind a little bit. 2019, Bushra Akhtar was about to tell me something. She knew about some sort of a crime, and I just stopped her midway and I said, I never knew about anything bad happening. I don't want to know right now. Okay, 2023, 4 years later, this is still, law enforcement still went ahead with their plan to give Uncle Joey governor's protocol, and help him out with his sex scheme ad regardless. So it clearly shows to you exactly how much law enforcement really cared about running investigations, quote unquote, or that if they cared about anything else except for making sure my brain savant could not be seen performing out in the open for even 30 minutes, which is my theory against law enforcement. Everything being done is to make sure that I do not get a 30-minute brain savant test. If law enforcement administers a 30-minute brain savant test, they win half of their case, mainly due to the fact that they've let the public see the brain savant performing out in the open for 30 minutes, which means that it might be that they didn't have much of an obsession with it. Well, anyways, till now, the 30-minute test has not been done, even though a 1-minute test has been done in Moscow, Russia, and everyone has seen it in the world. So basically, this is what law enforcement did with Uncle Joey, despite Bushra Akhtar almost telling me in 2019 that she knew about something that occurred in the family. And apart from doing this with Uncle Joey, law enforcement were also running money fraud the entire year of 2023. It's almost as if someone were to tell law enforcement that, look, my dad, the Greedy Framer, is banned from the U.S. He's also banned from entering England, and I've seen him with my own eyes encouraging people to go join terror groups, and law enforcement still provides him with excellent protocol and everything of that sort of nature. Talks to him all day and night long. Would that make any sense? I don't think that would make much sense to me. A man who's banned from multiple countries, he definitely did something bad. He's been witnessed by me, with my own eyes, and a government informants, both at the same time, encouraging people to go join terror groups, and law enforcement would still be providing him with all these things. Would that make any sense to you? It wouldn't make any sense to me. So basically, law enforcement still ran their sex schemes with Uncle Joey at the funeral in November 2023. My point is, if Junaid really thought that it was terrible what Uncle Joey could have said around me as a child, Junaid would have told law enforcement, look, law enforcement, I think it's really bad that you covered over the wedding crime, whoever committed it, okay? I think it's really bad that you use hard-earned taxpayer money to help Uncle Joey run sex schemes, okay? I think it's really bad that you guys are helping Uncle Joey with his sex scheme ads all the time, and that you had him called over to Maryland at least 4 times to help him run sex schemes. I think it's really bad that you guys did this. Did Junaid say this? No. He never said this. What he did say to law enforcement was, I want to do exactly what Uncle Joey did with you. I want to run after these women. I want to run the sex ad. So when you get your taxpayer money paycheck every month, use it to work for me while you're supposed to be working for the government by telling me the exact moment I'm supposed to come out of my house on the night of July 10th around 8 p.m. so that I could come in front of the Silence Tower cameras, pretend to be the cute artistic kid, and advertise myself in front of all these women. Is this something that a person who is claiming that he hates what Uncle Joey could have said around me as a child would have done? I don't think so. Because then he's doing exactly what Uncle Joey did, which is try to run sex schemes around the man with the brain savant, which is me. Okay, so it doesn't make any sense for Junaid to be pretending to hate what Uncle Joey and law enforcement have been doing, but then outside of court, he's doing the exact same thing what Uncle Joey and law enforcement did together for years. For their sex addiction problems, now Junaid is doing it for his own sex addiction problems, which is clearly the front under part of my car being snatched out. It's bolted in there. It's been snatched out. It's a piece of plastic that's been snatched out, due to which I cannot even. It's right over here. I can't do anything about it. I tried to use duct tape, but duct tape just comes out. And yeah, it is what it is. There's nothing I could do about it. It gives me severe anxiety that it's going to drag on the road, or it might get stuck with my tire, causing an accident or an injury. But Junaid doesn't care about that. Junaid only cares about his sex addiction problem. Clearly seen from him just today, August 9th, 12:09 p.m., okay, using the Safelite ad to threaten to do the exact same thing, which is vandalism against my car, to make me scared and feel like in panic that he's gonna do this and be like, oh man, I'm being threatened. All these girls are coming after me. I guess I'm gonna have to go run after them. Yeah, right. Those girls, by the way, are other people's daughters, not to be sleeping around with someone with 2 kids. And they're also not sexually frustrated. The reason they're looking for someone is not because they're sexually frustrated. They want a husband who could provide for them, which is why they ask about me. I'm not that guy, since I already have someone in mind. And so, yeah, it's just not happening. Definitely not happening. And definitely not helping Junaid run these sex schemes on other people's daughters, when in fact he's already tried to scam them with the CEO story, and we all know what the truth on that was when he was himself heard confessing to the girls what the truth was on that. So a married man with 2 kids about to get an early retirement is not someone that is supposed to be running scams on other people's daughters, when he himself confessed to the girls that he gets into fights at work every single day, loses his job every year, he earns the same amount and does the exact same job my sister does, and that he gets an early retirement almost every year, with this year, 2026, being a confirmed case. He confessed these things to the girls himself. So after he's confessed this, should I be taking a married man with 2 kids to be scammed by these girls who are looking for a husband for themselves, and not someone due to their sexual frustration like Junaid and law enforcement are? Absolutely not. There's no way. I want to do it for myself, and I'm not going to do it for someone else. Okay. My game plan is, as soon as my brain savant gets freed, artificial intelligence report from June 24th being overanalyzed will tell you that if I'm able to do something like Aaron Ball's medicinal chemistry in 1 day's time period, a textbook whose 1 page a normal human being cannot get past in a week's time period, I'm gonna get more than 30,000 pages of extremely dry pages done in 30 days time period, more than that actually. And due to innovation being a superhuman power of mine as well, tested a few weeks before April 22nd, 2025 last year, right when I was laying in my bed. I'm obviously going to get my first work done, which is definitely going to be 0 tolerance coffee. And when I'm done that, then I go get married. That is the game plan. I do not leave behind problems for myself where someone's crying on the side saying that I used them and ran away or something, when I know what I have to do and who I want to go with anyway. So yeah, this thing where Junaid is threatening me to be an extreme version of Uncle Joey, while saying in court that he is totally against what Uncle Joey could have said. I'm totally against what he could have done with law enforcement, running all these sex schemes and sex scheme ads with law enforcement, totally illegal. And so I'm totally against what Uncle... You have to understand the fact that Junaid cannot claim that he's against what Uncle Joey could have said around me as a child, which wasn't a crime. Nothing that Uncle Joey said around me was a crime as a child. Okay, so no crimes committed around me as a child, not like this vandalism and all these things, threats and vandalism that Junaid committed. The other thing that the courts have to understand is the fact that the only crimes that Uncle Joey committed were with law enforcement using hard-earned taxpayer money to get protocol like a sitting governor would envy, getting top-notch intelligence on me and my whereabouts to try to get the baby away from me that I was babysitting, try to force me to go and advertise for him for these different girls and women. These are the crimes that Uncle Joey committed. What he could have said around me was never a crime. So Junaid is basically saying, I'm totally okay with what the crimes that Uncle Joey committed. I just have a problem with what Uncle Joey could have said around Hassan. Decades ago, when Hassan was a child and it wasn't his fault and it was Uncle Joey's fault and law enforcement's fault, I'm totally fine with Uncle Joey's crimes. I have no problem with that. I have problems with what Uncle Joey could have said around Hassan as a child. Does that make any sense to you? I don't think so. It doesn't make any sense to me. It kind of looks like Junaid had a sex addiction problem before May 25th, 2026, where he thought that everything was going according to plan. My brain savant would get locked up using false testimonies that law enforcement had planned out, like the 10-year-old child claiming 25 years later in mid-January 2026 that I said anti-government things to him when I was a 10-year-old child myself, or the group chat false testimony coming out of the pharmacy school. But after his CEO story got caught, and after he was forced to confess himself in a state of panic out of fear that the girls would find out anyways, his entire game plan had to go to waste. Because after May 25th, 2026, foreign prime ministers looked embarrassed on TV. Okay, I saw a former president's wife, and she looked so embarrassed. I'm not going to name who it was. She looked so embarrassed that she couldn't make eye contact with with the camera. Not TV, sorry, with the camera. That's how embarrassed she looked. She could not make eye contact with the camera due to how humiliated Junaid got around May 25th, 2026 for running after an elementary school teacher of mine, whom he never knew his entire life, only ran after her due to extreme envy of people liking me and not liking him, despite realizing the fact that an autistic person like myself would never ask for her contact info to run after her or try to socialize with people in the first place. And he's claiming to be autistic and lacking social skills, but that's exactly what he's trying to do. Yes, it is very funny. He's only pretending to be autistic and antisocial to pretend to be like me, but he's begging for her phone number and then begging her to sleep with him and socialize with him all day and night long, to the point that he gets so badly humiliated that literally the former presidents and their wives and presidents in foreign countries cannot look into the camera out of how humiliated they were. But looking at their faces, I was actually smiling at home. I knew exactly what had happened, and I thought, man, that's a little bit of a karma that Junaid got. What you do is what you get. And he was trying to enviously lock up my brain savant, hoping that these false testimonies would work against me. He was trying to enviously lock up my brain savant, hoping that these false testimonies would work against me. And then May 25th, he realized that this little scam that he had got going got caught. So in a state of panic, like any addict, he tries to force his way to not be able to lose the thing that he's addicted to. Like any sex addicted or drug addicted person like Ibrahim will tell you, that Junaid then, in a state of panic, called these girls himself and told them exactly what the truth was. I get paid the same amount my sister does, exact same amount of money, do this exact same job. I get in fights at work every day, lose my job every single year. I almost get an early retirement every year, and this year, 2026, is a confirmed case. He tells the entire story to all the girls before the person who told the CEO truth does so that he would lower the chances of these girls running away. Like any addict, he couldn't control himself. He was in a state of panic. And so what he ended up doing in a state of panic was even worse, because now the girls know the truth and they know it from his own mouth. So basically what ended up happening was, after May 25th, 2026, Junaid had to change his strategy. And his strategy after May 25th, 2026 went on to being like this. First, he breaks my car. And that's the flap right over there. snatched out. It's been snatched out so that I would go into a state of panic and anxiety, worrying the entire time I'd be driving. It's snatched out of there, right over there, snatched down. It's supposed to be up on top. Yeah. And then that's between June 3rd and June 8th that he had committed this act of vandalism against my car, so to cause extreme anxiety. And then that was just to show that he meant business. He was very serious. And then this is from today, August 9, 12:09 p.m. And this is Junaid threatening to break my windshield. Yeah. This is Junaid threatening to break my windshield. Trying to say that he's going to take all my money from me, and then him also saying that if you don't want this windshield broken, then you have to work with me in trying to scam these girls. Everyone knows that he is supposed to be Mario, so I guess I'm supposed to be Luigi. Yeah, right. Not happening. Well, anyways, this video was to try to say that common sense dictates that Junaid cannot claim that on the one hand, he's totally disagrees with what Uncle Joey could have said around me as a child, which was never a crime in the first place, by the way. But he's totally okay with the crimes that Uncle Joey committed, which was misusing taxpayer money, hard-earned taxpayer money from law enforcement to run his own sex schemes with law enforcement, to use hard-earned taxpayer money, use taxpayer tools, government resources to find out my exact whereabouts so that he could find out exactly where I am to run his sex schemes, and use the government resources, hard-earned taxpayer money, hard-earned taxpayer manpower in law enforcement to run sex schemes with law enforcement by trying to force me and finding a way to try to force me to go near him. And yet, from that moment that my mother talked about when I was in Russia, that she removed me from Uncle Joey when I was a child after his dirty chat was found, I've never seen him ever again in my life. Which means that I refused law enforcement each and every single time they asked me, due to which I've never seen Uncle Joey since I was a child. What Junaid is basically trying to say is that he's totally he totally disagrees with what Uncle Joey could have said around me as a child more than decades ago, and he feels terrible and saddened about it. Excuse me. But Uncle Joey's crimes of becoming BFFs in law enforcement and misusing taxpayer money and government resources that are also from taxpayer money, hard-earned taxpayer money, law enforcement manpower that are also from hard-earned taxpayer money for his own sex schemes and sex addictive behavior, that is totally fine. That's something that Junaid, in fact, agrees with, since Junaid is doing the exact same thing Uncle Joey did with law enforcement by trying to get people's contact info out, like my elementary school teacher getting rejected by them every single day, then coming in front and behind my car cameras, exactly what Uncle Joey was trying to do to run his sex scheme ad, which is why I knew exactly what Junaid was doing, and the fact that he had gotten, the exact timing, they're not letting me talk, the exact timing for when he has to come out of his house so that he could come in my car cameras. I knew for a fact what was going on due to it being tried with Uncle Joey for so many years. And Junaid is basically saying he loves the fact that Uncle Joey did this with law enforcement, but he's just against what Uncle Joey could have said around me more than decades ago when I was a child, which was not a crime, by the way. What was a crime, misuse of taxpayer money, misuse of manpower, misuse of government resources with law enforcement that Uncle Joey knew was a crime, and it was supposed to be used for fighting crime, and yet it was being used for his Uncle Joey's sex addiction problem only because law enforcement wanted to get reciprocal sex from Uncle Joey's in-laws as well. That Junaid totally agrees with, because he gets the contact info for everyone that he's envious about liking me, and then runs after them only to get rejected by them every single day, including today, August 9th, where he's had the police called on by my elementary school teacher, whom he never knew, only became envious of the fact that she liked me and didn't like him. And even today, August 9th, Junaid still got rejected by her, and now he's been threatening to break my windshield after he has already. So this is damage done on my car, vandalism, between June 3rd and June 8th. between a 5-day time period. And today, just 2 months ago, by the way, June 3rd, June 8th, but this is today, this right over here, 12:09 p.m., this is today, Junaid is threatening to break my windshield, only due to, only to try to get me to scam these women and to sleeping with me and then passing them around to people like Junaid. He needs to read a book on autism. It would be greatly appreciated, because he claims to be autistic, but his behavior is, I don't think, autistic at all. I really feel that autistic people would be greatly offended by him claiming this, and him making literally a joke about us. Obviously, for me, it's been proven from a highly advanced piece of brain scanner that I call the time machine, because on January 20th, 2026, it proved the early part of my autistic brain savant. You can ask law enforcement exactly how, but I think autistic people would be greatly offended by Junaid claiming that he's autistic. But yeah, the thing that Junaid is trying to claim doesn't make any sense. First of all, the thing I had to say was I had nothing to do with his house invitation list, and the facts and evidences will clearly show that I have never been around anyone who could have even remotely have said anything even remotely considered bad around me since I gained the slightest bit of mental maturity as a child, not because me or my mother were tipped off, since a child is not in charge of his own surroundings, his mother is, and if my mother was tipped off, law enforcement would clearly know, since she's the kind of person who says everything. And and so clearly facts and evidences also show that law enforcement themselves have been running sex schemes and money fraud with everyone for decades, with the sex scheme starting with Uncle Joey's in-laws since 2001, clearly showing from facts and evidences that we weren't tipped off, but that my mother fulfilled her promise the moment I gained the slightest bit of mental maturity, which is why I've never even slightly been around anyone who could have even remotely have said anything bad around me ever again, ever since I gained the slightest bit of mental maturity as a child. Whereas Junaid Junaid has been around people in his own wedding. He's been taking gifts from people. He's been meeting with people. He's totally fine with everyone and everything. He's even mimicking Uncle Joey's crimes that he committed with law enforcement, that he's totally fine with, and he thinks that it's great that Uncle Joey did this, which is why we see Junaid being so badly humiliated by people like my elementary school teacher, that literally foreign presidents are not able to look into the camera screen, knowing about the level of humiliation Junaid calls himself while trying to run after them. But yeah, that part he's totally okay with. But the only part that he's not okay with is what Uncle Joey could have said around me when I was a child, only when I was being adult supervised by him, only till I gained the slightest bit of mental maturity, and only until after my mother had gotten permission from law enforcement for me to do so. You have to remember the fact that as a child, there was absolutely nothing I could have done as a child. Okay, so as an adult, I was in pharmacy school, there was poverty still there, my mother was still working at a Food Line grocery store, not earning much, and so I had to find ways, and my mother was worried about me, and she said, "Hey, son, how are you going to get done with the food?" And I told her, don't worry about it, and the way I got done with it was I found someone to tutor, and I told him straight out, "Look, I don't have any food, so you're gonna have to give me food in exchange for tutoring you. I'll tutor you, but you have to give me food." And the guy was just like, yeah, that's fine. Just come over to my house today, tutor me. I used to tutor him pharmacology. And I called my mother as soon as I got home, and I told her, I was like, "Look, I took care of it. Don't worry about it. I took care of it. When I was a child, there was nothing I could do. I'm not going to go earn money and then bring it back to my mother and then be like, hey, look, here's the money. You can put me in a daycare." If I was to go back in time, I'd be put in the exact same setting. It would be greatly appreciated if my mother would take permission from law enforcement before I would be put there when I was an 11-year-old child. And it would be greatly appreciated if my mother would take me out of every setting at the moment I would gain the slightest bit of mental maturity, so that I would never be in any setting where anything you remotely considered bad could be said around me ever again from the moment I gained the slightest bit of mental maturity as a child. And it would be greatly appreciated if there was never any crimes committed around me as a child, only things that could even remotely be considered bad being said around me as a child, which is exactly what happened. And thankfully, my mother was smarter than law enforcement, who wants her to make her look like she's dumb or stupid or low IQ only because she never said anything remotely considered bad around me ever in my entire life. Much smarter than law enforcement, since she removed me from every setting no longer needed the moment I gained a slightest bit of mental maturity as a child, not because we were tipped off, because if we were tipped off, then we would have tipped other people off, and my mother is in charge of my surroundings as a child, even when I gained a slightest bit of mental maturity, not me. And so, yeah, if she was tipped off, other people would have been tipped off, but everyone was tipped off by law enforcement running sex games and money fraud, which are still going on till this very day with Uncle Joey's in-laws since 2001, and money fraud, which was only stopped about 2 months ago. So basically, facts and evidence to speak for themselves. That if we went back in time and the same criteria was there, conditions were there, my mother was working at a fast food restaurant, well, daycare center would have been no answer since she couldn't afford that working in fast food, so only free places. And so it would have been the same scenario. The only thing is, I'd be thankful if she would do the same thing this time, ask law enforcement permission when I would be an 11-year-old child, make a promise, fulfill it the moment I gain the slightest bit of mental maturity as a child, and no one and never for me to ever again be seen in any settings where anything remotely considered bad could be said around me as a child. These things would be greatly appreciated, and that's exactly what my mother did. The thing is, law enforcement now wants to lock up my brain savant, make sure I can't use it at all, and they want any excuse possible so that it cannot even be seen performing out in the open for even 30 minutes to help save their life, despite law enforcement running sex games with Uncle Joey's in-laws since 2001 and money fraud that were only stopped about 2 months ago, whereas I've never, since the moment I gained a slightest bit of mental maturity, and you have to remember the fact that law only holds people liable from the moment they gain a slightest bit of mental maturity. Since I gained a slightest bit of mental maturity as a child, I've never even once been in any setting where anything even remotely considered bad could have been said around me ever again. Whereas law enforcement's been running sex games with Uncle Joey's in-laws since 2001, providing him with governor's protocol in November 2023 at the funeral, despite Bushra Akhtar almost about to tell me in 2019 some sort of a crime that she knew about before I stopped her, and I said, I don't want to know about it. And law enforcement running money fraud the entire year of 2023, not caring in the least bit about anything. Clearly showing from facts and evidence is that while law enforcement became BFFs with everyone, completely ignoring anything bad anyone could have said or done, Bushra Akhtar even being almost close to about to tell me something that she knew about in the year 2019 that she was about to tell me before I told her that I did not want to know. Law enforcement couldn't care less, because in the year 2023, 4 years later, they were running money fraud the entire year, sex games with Uncle Joey at the funeral in November 2023, clearly showing from facts and evidences that this is all law enforcement did since 2001 with Uncle Joey's in-laws, followed by money fraud that's been run for years and years, only stopped about 2 months ago, and that they only became obsessed with me due to my brain savant. And if they say they want to prove that they are not obsessed with my brain savant, then they can easily prove it in 30-minute brain savant test. Whether I'm Kim Peek Rain Man at the end of that 30-minute test or I'm a nothing burger, law enforcement still wins, because law enforcement proves that they're not obsessed with not being able to see my brain savant perform out in the open, which is why they've done everything against me, including fabricate false testimonies, with the 10-year-old child claiming mid-January 2026 that I said anti-government things to him when I was a 10-year-old child in elementary school. A group chat false testimony coming out of pharmacy school, which has now become a joke since they have a new false testimony coming out of there literally every week now. With the newest one from August 7th, 2 days ago, someone claiming that I was dumb and stupid, and a bad test taker, and I was really low IQ. Like, you could just prove these things in 30 minutes over here. But if you really had 1%, thought that this was true, they would have done a 30-minute test and won their case. Instead of having someone 10,000 miles away claiming this about me, you got to use common sense over here to understand that this would have been a false testimony. Even if the person wasn't caught lying, it would have been a false testimony. Because if law enforcement thought that there was 1% chance that this was true, they would have done a 30-minute test and won their case, instead of having someone 10,000 miles away claim this about me. Just use common sense. Well, anyways, that's all I had to say. Thank you.